According to recent research, what percentage of those who've lost a partner go on to find love again? The answer is 40%.
Thank you very much, Lee. Welcome back to Tuesday's show with David, Janet and Ricardo Travera, who's just about to open in a play with a very risque title, but if you search National Theatre in his name, you'll find it next month. Right now, though, we're going to try and make Dying Matters Awareness Week by talking about how we cope with bereavement, a subject which doesn't get aired very often on television, but it's nevertheless something everyone is going to have to go through at some point in their lives. But, of course, how we cope does vary massively from person to person, the situations they find themselves in. Some can appear to move swiftly on, others can be brought so low by their grief that they actually lose the will to live themselves. You can suffer physical symptoms and, of course, mental stresses, anger and guilt. Some people will try to cope on their own, others might turn to family and friends, yet more may seek out professional help. Some, of course, may find death itself a merciful release, particularly if they've seen a loved one slowly taken from them by some hideous disease, but, of course, death can also be very quick and sudden. A benefit, one might argue, for those who lose their lives without suffering, but, of course, it can also leave loved ones feeling utterly bereft as they were unable to make their peace and say goodbyes. Now, I'd love to hear from you. This is what it's really about. If you've got a story to tell, tips to share, questions to ask, do give us a tinkle. The usual number, 0207 173 5555. But while you're dialing, I'd like to introduce Victoria Milligan. Victoria's husband, Nick, was a former colleague of mine, and their 8-year-old daughter, Emily, were killed in a boating accident 2 years ago this month. An accident that also claimed part of Victoria's left leg and almost robbed their son, 7-year-old son, Kit, of his. Now, I suspect many of you will remember reading about the accident, but I do wonder, Victoria, good morning.
Hi.
Do you remember much of it yourself?
I do, bizarrely. I remember sort of knowing that something awful was happening, but your survival instinct sort of kicks in very, very strongly. And I remember looking at my leg and thinking, OK, that's probably gone, but I'll get a prosthetic, I'll sort of put that on.
This is while you're in the water?
This is while I'm in the water, literally, sort of with the boat going round. I remember Amber screaming, Daddy's dead, so I knew he wasn't alive. And I remember not feeling any physical pain, but I remember suddenly just everything kicking in and thinking, right, I've got to... Your maternal instinct kicks in. You just think, I've got to carry on for them, and we're going to, you know, we can sell the house, we'll get money that way. You just suddenly start to kind of format your life without really knowing what the future's going to be.
While you're in seconds?
Yeah, in seconds. You just kind of go like that. And then everything else obviously kind of follows on from that. But, you know, the beginning of a loss is all about shock and numbness and disbelief, and you can't believe this has happened. And I think that stage lasts for quite a long time until the reality
Can I ask,
getting
a bit about face here, I mean, how are you doing now?
I'm good. I mean, people ask me that, and I suppose I never really know how to answer, but I suppose the real answer is I'm doing pretty well for someone that has lost their husband, their daughter and their left leg.
And the kids?
They're doing really well, thank you. So Kit's leg is fine. He is running around like a normal 7-year-old boy, and the girls are doing really well, you know, normal sort of teenage angst. But we are a very tight unit. We are very open with each other, and I think that's another really important thing about grief, that I'm very good at expressing my grief openly because there's no way I could hide my grief after what's happened to me.
Was it difficult having it all in the papers as well?
It was. I mean, we were sort of thrown into the spotlight, obviously, because of the nature of the accident, and, you know, it's such an awful tragedy that it was very difficult. And weirdly now, I think 2 years on, I think we all crave a little bit of sort of normality. I think that's what we all want, and even the children sort of say, you know, Kit, when we went skiing, he said, Mummy, is it all right if my friends in my ski team don't know about the accident and about Daddy and Emily? And in a way, sort of, I don't know whether to find that upsetting, but it's not that you're moving on and forgetting them, it's just that they want to just be slightly anonymous for a while and forget about it for a while and just have a bit of a break from the pain and constantly explaining about this is why my daddy's not here and this is why my sister's not here. And it's hard and it's exhausting and you're always talking about something sad.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just want to have a break from it and live a normal life.
OK, David, something?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, I'm so sorry for what happened.
Thank
it's
you.
just a shocking, shocking tragedy. And I suppose the thing I always say to people, and you've really said that very nicely, which is that you never forget. Of course you never forget. But I really think you learn to live with it. And I think it's really important that you do try and have some sort of normal existence, you know, for your own sanity and for your children as well. And I think You know, every person's journey is different, isn't it?
Exactly.
And no one can tell you because they don't know, because they haven't been through what you are going through.
And, you know, there's no right or wrong way to grieve. Everyone's grief is entirely personal.
That's absolutely right.
It all depends on your character before the accident. You know, it depends on the type of death. It depends on your relationship with the person that's died. There's no right or wrong. There's no given time. You know, you sort of read books. I remember reading book after book at the beginning, desperate for some sort of help or something to relate to. You know, and they say, well, the first year's the worst, and then you should be sort of OK, back on track after 2 years.
I've had family members asking me, how am I supposed to feel? Because
I
think because it's not talked about often enough.
And also it catches you unawares, doesn't it? Because I lost my dad before Christmas, and he'd been ill for a comparatively short time. He was in hospital for a week. And actually, at 82, if I'd heard about somebody else's 82-year-old father dying, I'd think, well, that's a good life well lived. Sounded a bit young for my dad. But there are things now that catch me about losing him that I wouldn't have predicted. He always made these spectacularly illustrated birthday cards for us. And in March, when John's birthday arrived, one didn't, and it was a real loss. And it was a sudden and unpredictable thing. You also lost part of you. I'd say you have got the most brilliant prosthetic there. It's just, it is. It's stunning.
Very, very
it is
big,
absolutely stunning.
I love
mean, you look
it's
great.
a work of art.
But did you grieve for your leg?
Do you know what? I didn't, because it was so far down the list of my losses that, in a way, it's just another awful thing that happened. And weirdly, you know, if that had happened on its own, obviously I would have thought my life is over, I've lost my leg, I can't possibly carry on. But compared to losing Nico and Emily, it's sort of nothing. It's a complete pain and effort and learning to rewalk, but I'm so determined to be the mother that I was before for my children, because they've lost so much that they can't lose me and who I was as well. So I am going to ski with them and run with them and do everything that I used to do with them, because I think it's really important for them to see me carry on.
I just think you're fantastic. You're so strong. And actually, it's a credit to you, and it's a credit to your children as well, because it's not easy.
It's not easy, but in a way I want to do it for Nick and Emily. You know, I think, what would they want me to be doing? What would he want me to be doing? You know, I've now got to be both parents to them. They've lost their father, and it's not fair what's happened to them. They've had the whole, you know, sort of lovely blanket of, you know, childhood ripped away from them. They know awful things can happen, and it's not fair what's happened to them. And I've got to be the parent.
I mean, you would have suffered that as you'd have been, what, 15, 16 when
I was
you lost
15. I was 15 when I lost my mom, and you know, one of the things that I've realized, I think, unlike some of my family members, my sister specifically, is, you know, it does get easier as you talk about these things openly. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, because you've mentioned that, where it's like talking about it, talking with your children, and being open with your grief and those things. But at the same time, it also seems like that's also a lot of pressure on you. And so where is it that you find that where's the release for you away from the children, and you know, and not having your husband around anymore, where that would be a release?
Yes, that you know, that is one of the things that I find the hardest. Not only having lost my daughter, but my husband, my partner in life, and the person that you would turn to, the only one that really cares what the children are going through. You know, of course my friends care, but they don't care as much as a sort of co-parent. I think right from the start I've been very open about my feelings, very open with my friends. I think another really important thing is never feel guilty about having a good time. You know, do whatever makes you feel good. If it's having a cup of tea and a biscuit, going out for a glass of wine with a friend. You know, my birthday was 2 months after the accident. I remember very clearly sitting in my wheelchair in my garden, and a friend brought round a bottle of champagne. And I thought, well, why on earth are we drinking champagne? That's ridiculous. She said, because you are here, and you have survived, and your children have got you to go forward.
Did you
and that's why we're celebrating.
seek out professional help, counselling?
I did. I was very lucky and have had Julia Samuels, who is the lady that set up Child Bereavement UK, and they've been so incredibly helpful to me, and there's no way that I would not be as sane as I am today without their help, because at the beginning when she came to see me I sort of shunned any help and thought, well, all I want is Nick and Emily, and you can't do that, so why on earth would I want to speak to anybody about it? But as time goes on you realise that you can plan, there are preparations that you can make. You know, my whole year is littered with very, very painful days. So, anniversary of the accident, which we've just had, Nick and Emily's birthdays, which are awful, Christmas, you know, any sort of family time, school holidays are really difficult on my own. And she helps me little planning and preparation. They don't have to be as painful as they could be otherwise. And in a way, they can be sort of celebratory days about the loved ones that you've lost and remember them. I can now start to look at pictures of Emily again without just bursting into tears every time I do, and remember her funny little smile and, you know, things
You're doing
that she
ever
used
so
to
well.
do.
I really do. Ever so well.
So
ever
it's
so
really
well.
important. But, you know, you don't have to seek counselling if it doesn't feel right for you. But I think a lot of people feel quite isolated when they lose a loved one. And I do remember looking at my friends and thinking, well, you're so lucky, it's all right for you, you've still got your husband and your children. But in a way, for me, seeking professional help meant that I didn't feel on my own. You know, you can meet other people that have lost children, other people that have lost a partner.
I've been trying to get my sister to talk to someone. It's ever so hard.
Yeah, I
she
think
is
it's
on her
important.
own,
It's a daunting subject. And again, for children, my children haven't really wanted to speak to anybody because, as my 12-year-old says, why do I want to talk about my innermost feelings to a complete stranger? And I sort
can
of
see that.
get that. So I've had to ask my counsellor how to talk to them, and that's really helped as well. So.
Listen, we're going to take a quick break. I really very much like you to help as you can with any of our callers. And, of course, we'd love to hear from you. 0207 173 5555, the number. Tips, advice, just a story to tell. We'd love to hear from you. We'll see you back after one last quick break.
According to one survey, what percentage of people claim to be managing their grief within 2 years? Is it 35, 45 or 55%? Find out after the break. According to one survey, what percentage of people claim to be managing their grief within 2 years? The answer is 55%.
Welcome back. It's the last bit of this morning's show with David, Janet and Ricardo. We're marking Dying Matters Awareness Week by talking about bereavement, hearing your thoughts. 0207 173 5555, the number you need. We've just been speaking to Victoria Milligan, who lost her husband, Nick, an old colleague of mine, and 8-year-old daughter, Emily, in a boating accident a couple of years back. An accident claimed part of her leg, but thankfully her other 3 kids, Amber, Olivia and Kip, all survived and all well. Before the break, Victoria was telling us how there's no really one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to dealing with grief. She has had a lot of support from counsellors, which kept strong. I think we can all see that, not just for the sake of her children, but I think for her own sanity as well. Time now to throw open the phone lines and hear from you, Resi. What do people say?
We've got Brent on line 1.
Morning, Brent.
Oh, good morning, Matt.
Thanks.
How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for picking up the phone. It can be a heavy subject, this, but I don't see we have to be too heavy about it. What would you like to say?
Yes, I think you never really get over grief there. Sometimes you think you do, and then it comes back at you. I lost my dad about 10 years ago. My dad killed himself. He hung himself out. I was living in London at the time. I'm still living in London, and he's in Australia. I had a phone call from my dad the night before he did it, and I knew something was wrong, and I never made the phone call back. I told my wife at the time and said, something's wrong. I need to call him back. At the time, my brother's going through throat operation, my grandmother's going through heart operation. I thought they were hiding something from me. And I said to my wife, call him back, I'm not happy. I never made that phone call. Next morning, found out my dad hung himself. And never got over it. Sorry.
There is, they say it's Kubler-Ross, there's a theory, there's 5 stages of grief that you go through.
Yes.
And I think that you can get...
At the time there, my son helped me out a lot. My 4-year-old son, he said to me, we lost a bird just a week before, and he goes, and his name was Rainbow. He says, Rainbow was sick, Poppy was sick, Rainbow flew away, Poppy flew away, both in the sky, but both at peace. And that picked me up a lot. He's a beautiful little boy. And within a year, I lost my wife. My wife left me. So I never had time to grieve properly, sort of thing. And so I was looking after 2 children by myself there. And then I had another child in between afterwards there. And so I had that on my mind.
What about now, Brent? Where are you today, 10 years on?
10 years on there, it's all probably hit back at me because we had another hiccup. I got remarried again. We've got a beautiful daughter, Rose, and she went into foster care. No fault of ours. We got my child back, and we had lots of ups and downs, lots of great times and lots of low times in my life there. And then after all this, getting my daughter back, being so happy, and then it hit back at me again. I lost my dad.
Brent, life, as I think probably we're all aware of this morning, can deal some very, very cruel blows. I hope, I've got to take some other callers there, I hope, if you are still struggling 10 years down the line, you consider talking to some people out there. There's going to be helplines on our website. I know Victoria's writing a book as well, which is coming out shortly. I wish you all the best. Thank you, Brent. Let's have another.
We've got George on line 2.
Morning, George.
Good morning.
How are you getting along then, sir?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. How are you getting along?
Well, this is the reason I've called. It's really strange. I'm in my 70s now. I was the oldest child, the only son. I was really exceptionally close to my mother. She died 14 years ago. And I never really grieved. I feel ashamed of myself for not doing it because...
Was she ill for a while?
So close.
Was she ill for a while, George?
Devastated. And I'm beginning to feel a bit... No, I've never spoken to anybody before. I've never discussed it. I just feel ashamed of myself sometimes because I didn't do anything.
Really brave of you now saying...
Listen, sorry, Victoria, sorry.
No, I think it's really brave of you now admitting that you feel like you've never grieved. I think that's a really brave thing to do. And, you know, as I said, there's no wrong or right about it. Yes, she was your mother, and yes, you loved her, but your life might have been busy, and there's no right or wrong time to grieve. You can grieve now, 14 years on. You don't have to grieve at the time when you've lost somebody. Maybe it wasn't the right time to grieve then, but grief is all about sort of you've got to face the pain, otherwise you do get slightly locked and slightly stuck. Grief is the honour of the love we had for that person.
Maybe
so be brave now.
The pain.
I think it is, and we're all afraid of pain. Of course we are, because it's horrible going to those dark places. But what I can tell you is that your brain, your mind, is so incredible. It only lets in as much pain as you can take. Because I thought I was just going to collapse. I thought there's no way I can cope with what I've coped with. It's too much for anybody to bear. But step by step by step, your brain just lets in a little bit of pain and you do cope with it, and then you find that you are surviving and you are living, but with her in your heart, with love for her, and you have grieved for her.
Well, I think, by the way, just to pick up the phone today, after 14 years, and say something like you've said, George, is proof, if it were needed, that you're on the way. And again, I wish you all the best. I wish I could spend more time with all of you.
We've got Andy on line 3.
Morning, Andy.
Morning.
Hi there. Thanks for picking up the phone. What would you like to tell us, then, sir?
I lost my wife last year to secondary breast cancer.
Right.
I was listening to what Victoria was saying before the break. Absolutely agree. Couldn't agree more. Life goes on, and you shouldn't feel guilty about enjoying yourself. And now having a new partner, I'm planning for the future. We knew for a little while that Sue was was terminal. So we planned our future based on that fact. She loved to laugh. She was a real character. And her 2 weeks before she passed, we did the Race for Life at Eaton Park in Manchester. And as we were getting ready, I said, "What shoes would you like to wear?" She said, "Oh, I'll put my trainers on her to show willing." So, you know, it was she was very much, and her funeral was about laughter. It was about enjoying life, and we had a DJ, we had karaoke, because that was what she was about.
Amazing.
Andy, I've got to wrap things up, but I mean, it's just a really nice, positive note to end on, to show that you can come through these difficult times and have something worth living for.
Yeah. And never feel guilty. Never feel guilty about it, because that's what they would want you to do as well.
Thank you, Victoria. I have to say, for giving up your time. I'm absolutely thrilled.
Thank you.
I think you're wonderful work. I can't wait to see the book as and when it's done. And when it is done, come back here and maybe sit over this side. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you to Ricardo.
Please, of course.
Short and sweet.
My pleasure.
Best of luck with the play, with the title that mustn't be uttered on daytime TV. Full details on the website. You can catch them at the National Theatre from the 10th of June until August. Janet and David will see you tomorrow. Legends, the wonderful people. Tomorrow we've got EastEnders bad boy Jodie Latham here for the headlines. TV vet Mark Abrams going to be holding a pet clinic just for you. So any questions, little tiddles or Fido, get in touch. Thanks for choosing us this morning. Thanks for your wonderful calls and messages. And we'll see you 9:15, 12 tomorrow the same. Until then, take care. Bye.
Do you want to be part of the Wright stuff? Well, if you've got something to shout about, why not join our live studio audience? Call us now on 0207 173 5555. Get a seat and get on TV.